Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head back to Greece for the first time in quite a little while actually, but we've got a beer that I think will be really quite interesting for this one. So for this review we are going to go to one of the Greek islands, an island called Chios, which I believe is the fifth largest of all the Greek islands, and we're having a taste of a beer from their local brewery which is simply called Chios Beer. So this particular beer is the Chios Beer BBQ, which comes in at 5.5% ABV, and this one is a Rauchbier. So if you've watched the channel before, you'll know that I absolutely love Rauchbiers and smoked beers. My whole love of craft beer started off with Schlenkerlauf with my friend Daniel, who now lives in Bamberg. So I'm really curious to see how the Greeks do with this style, so hopefully this is another good beer. Big thank you to my friend Georgios, who made this review possible. He brought this beer to Sweden with him from Greece, and you know, hopefully, like I say, this is another good beer. I was very impressed with the standard of the Greek craft beers when I was there just about a year and a half ago now. That was around April 2018, if I remember correctly, that I was in Greece, but I'm sure I will go back there at some point in the next couple of years. I think it was really nice there. The Greeks were very, very nice, and the countryside was absolutely beautiful there, so I'm sure I will return at some point soon. Maybe even go to Chios, who knows. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Chios Beer. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Greek beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Chios Beer then, on to my brewery notes. So Chios Beer was founded about 10 years ago, back in 2009, by Manos Nazlidis and Ilvokos Emiglados, if I'm pronouncing their names right. I do apologise in this video for any bad Greek pronunciations. But as I mentioned to you earlier, this brewery is based on the Chios island in the Aegean Sea, which is actually quite close to Izmir in Turkey, and it's the fifth largest of all the Greek islands from what I understand. But they officially started the company together in the summer of 2010. They'd been homebrewing for quite a little bit of time before that, from what I understand, and then in 2011 they set up their premises in the Cambos area, which is close to the village of Timiana, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the brewery is still housed there today. They began bottling their beers back in 2012, and that meant that they could start selling them on the Greek mainland, rather, places like Athens, Patras, and you know, Thessaloniki and things like that, and they've continued to invest in new brewery equipment over the last couple of years. These guys are just a very kind of small scale brewery. I couldn't find an exact figure for how much beer they're producing, but they've only produced 5 different types of beer so far, according to Untappd, as of October 2019 when I'm filming this review for you. So yeah, another very kind of small Greek brewery, and it was quite cool that I was able to get a hold of this beer. Georgios remembered that I really liked my smoked beers, and he was in one of the shops and saw this one and brought it up to Sweden for me. So a huge thank you to him for making this review possible. It was really cool to be able to review this one for you. So yeah, that's all I was able to find out about Chios Beer for the moment. Just a very small company on this little island, which is really cool. There's a few breweries on the different islands. I mean, 7 islands are on Corfu, and I have had 1 or 2 others from different islands around places now. So I'm sure I had a beer from Santorini, but the name of the brewery's gone right out of my head now. I think it was the one with the little donkeys. It's gone right out of my head what the name of that brewery was. But yeah, really cool to review some more Greek beers for you on the channel, and like I've told you before, the standard of Greek beer is pretty damn good actually, so make sure you try some of them if you do get the chance. The scene's always expanding over there. My first encounter with Greek beers was with Septem, of course. But yeah, if you want to check out the brewery website, that's for you in the description below. You can can follow these guys on Facebook and Instagram, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on. And of course, if you're interested in all the different beers that they do, I'd recommend that you have a little look at the Rauchbier and Untappd pages as well. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open up. There you can see it's quite sort of classic styled, this one actually. It's a lot of the beers that these guys have are very similar. They're just you know, they are just very sort of classic in their sort of artwork, if you like. They all just have different colours and things. You can see on the side here, it does tell you it's a product of Greece, and there you can see the outline of Chios Island. It's got a little QR code there as well, and there you can see some of the Greek language, and of course I am not going to attempt to read that, but I always like winding my my friend Georgios up when I see Greek, because I always say, oh, it's just, I can't understand how you don't get tired of reading maths all the time. So you know, actually, if I was to try and learn Greek, I don't think it would be all that difficult to, you know, get used to the alphabet and things, because we use a lot of these letters in physics, of course, which is cool. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, there you can see, there's the Chios Beer bottle cap on this one, which is, you know, quite nice, quite tasteful. But yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we'll get on with the tasting then. A 5.5% Rauchbier from one of the Greek islands. Kind of cool. Oh, a little bit of explosion there. We'll need to just be careful with that. Oh, that's annoying. Sometimes that just happens when you've got beer. Ah. Right, okay, we'll pause the video and we'll come back in a little minute. Alright, well, we have the beer under control now, which is a good thing. I do apologise for the edit, but, you know, I don't think I've had a beer explode like that in a good while now, actually. But yeah, as you can see then, and as you would expect from a Rauchbier, this guy has poured a lovely kind of rich sort of mahogany colour. It's really got a nice almost red tinge to it. It's almost, yeah, I think mahogany and chestnutty is a good way to kind of describe this one. The head, of course, was much bigger than it is now, but you can see there's a good, like, 2/3 half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of light beige coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, quite a few little ones pushing their way up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall, in terms of appearance, when you consider that it is a Rauchbier, this is pretty much what you would expect. You would expect a nice sort of mahogany, a nice kind of mahogany sort of chestnutty type colour, and that's exactly what you get out of this one. It is actually quite hazy if I hold it up to the light. It does have a degree of clarity to it, but there is a little bit of haze to it. In fairness though, you could see just a little layer of sediment along the bottom of the bottle there, which is maybe due to my kind of fridge, if you like, just being a little bit cold. But overall, nothing surprising about the appearance. So let's take a closer look at that aroma then, and just see how we get on. Oh, right, straight away with this one, you can smell that lovely malt in here. It's most likely German malt that's in this one. This will be Weyermann Rauch malts from Bamberg. They're very, very distinctive. I've talked about this in my beer videos before. Obviously in Scotland we have our own Rauch malts as well, or well, they're not even called Rauch malts, we call them peated malts, and the smokiness that you get out of those is just a little bit different. It's a little bit more kind of grassy, slightly earthy almost, but the German Rauch malts are very meaty and kind of toasty in that sense, and this is definitely leaning towards that nice meaty side of things. This actually smells very similar to some of the beers that you'll get in Bamberg itself, so thumbs up to these guys in terms of the aroma. This is really nice. So yeah, straight away then you get that lovely big meaty toasty kind of it's like a charred, it's almost like a little bit like a kind of steaky type aroma out of this one, but more kind of porky, if that makes sense. It's a mix between a kind of toasty beef, toasty ham kind of thing, I think, that comes out of this one. So that's kind of dominating the aroma. You can definitely smell a nice little bit of a kind of brown bready quality in there, that nice German bread, and you will get that from the German malts. You're always going to have a nice smooth bready base in a lot of different German beer styles, so you pick that up right away. There's some nice woody notes. I think there's a little touch of like a toasty caramelly note to this one, or biscuit. There's definitely a little element of a slightly kind of brown sugary note in there, but really it's mainly very kind of it's got a lot of brown bread to it. It's got a lot of nice toasty meaty qualities, a little bit, pardon me, of a woody undertone, maybe even a little touch nutty, to be honest with you. But overall, the aroma is really nice. It definitely leans towards the malty side of things. In fairness though, you can pick up a little bit of the hoppy qualities. There's a nice, there's a nice sort of kind of German noble quality to it, a little bit of light earthiness, some of that typical kind of floral quality, that quite bright floral quality, and some lighter kind of grassy notes there. It will be probably Hallertau or Tettnanger hops that they're using in these beers of some description. But yeah, it does smell very authentic and German, this one. You can pick up little hints of fruity notes there as well, maybe very slightly, kind of like just a very light kind of slightly figgy note or something like that, but that's very, very, very faint, and you will get a little bit of fruit. When you use dark malts like this, you will get just a little hint of a kind of fruity character coming out of these beers. But overall, this beer smells very, very nice, and it comes across in its aroma as being very, very authentic actually. So big thumbs up to Chios Beer for this one. But yeah, let's have a taste of this beer and see how we go on. This one is the Chios Beer Barbecue, a 5.5% Rauchbier from Chios Beer on Chios Island in the Aegean Sea, if you like. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, skål, thank you to Georgios Yamas. That's really nice actually. That first thing you're going to notice about this beer is how drinkable it is. That is, for a Rauchbier, that's a very drinkable, very sessionable beer. And the thing is, of course, if you drink like Schlenkerla or something like that, you will notice it saturates your palate. It's really got a very, very strong flavour to it. In some ways, this kind of has the same, but it's very light and drinkable, if you like. It actually reminds me of a couple of the Japanese beers that I've reviewed for you. For example, the Fujizakura Heights Rauchbier, the purple one. This beer really isn't a million miles away from that. It's like a very drinkable version of the Schlenkerla. It's maybe a little bit more like the Spezial beers, to be honest with you. But when it's from a Greek island, very, very hot normally, you can understand that why they've gone for a more sort of drinkable kind of version of the beer, if you like. Or they've gone for the more drinkable version of the beer. But this is nice. In terms of authenticity, again, it gets a thumbs up from me. And this is a style, as I've told you, that I really, really enjoy. So if you enjoy the Rauchbier style, the Greeks have one, which is, it's quite unusual that. But then again, one of these things, as I've always said with the Greek reviews, is that you've got a country there that's very, very good at winemaking, so it's not really a surprise that when they try their hand at craft beer, that they do it pretty well. The Greek food is lovely as well, actually. I really enjoyed Greek food when I was down there, so it's not surprising that they're good when it comes to their beers as well. So yeah, and it's cool to try yet another brewery that I've never had anything from. But yeah, let's try and break down this flavour a little bit then. Straight away across the middle of your palate, you're going to feel that nice brown bready malty base there. That kind of blankets the middle of your tongue. You'll feel that it thickens up a little bit the further that you go into the aftertaste. If you move a little bit further forward on the palate, you can tell that it's got a nice little bit of a woody undertone, and if you go to the very centre of your palate and move forward, you might detect a few little nutty kind of qualities to this beer as well, which is interesting. So, in terms of the how do you say, in terms of the very centre of your palate too, the whole smoky notes in this beer, it's almost just like infused into the bready and woody kind of qualities, and it does come across as being rather meaty, but it's almost like the wood is a little bit kind of charred as well at the same time, so it's a really interesting sort of infused flavour that you're getting out of this beer actually. In the very centre of your palate you will get a little hint of a quite toasty brown sugar. It's not really sweet, it is like a really well roasted kind of biscuity note. Yeah, definitely a nice little bit of a kind of brown sugary quality there in the middle of the palate too. I like how I really like how this malt base goes together actually. If I compare this to other Rauch beers, this one, it's almost a little touch darker in the way that the smokiness comes out. It does have a little bit of a charred quality to it, but that suits it. It's very minimal. It doesn't kind of overshadow the other flavours in the beer, if you like, but it really does go together pretty damn nicely, I have to say. And that malt base is very nice, and it's interesting as well how it has all the flavours that you expect of this style, but it still manages to retain a little bit of crispness and a little bit of drinkability, which is obviously kind of related to the environment that it comes from, if you like, just, you know, being very, very hot. And it's quite crazy actually to think that, you know, in a place as hot as that, that they're into Rauchbiers and things like that. It's quite interesting to come across that. But of course you come over unusual things in the beer world all the time, you know, Jamaican stouts and things like this, so it's not unheard of to drink quite heavy malty beers in places where it's very, very warm. Actually, Dragon Stout from Jamaica is the one that I'm referring to if you're not familiar with that. But yeah, malty side of this beer, very good actually. The hoppy side is kind of what you would expect too. Back corners of the palate, you've got that nice smooth German noble earthiness that spreads forward a little bit. As you reach the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit sort of floral. You've got that nice noble kind of German brightness to the beer, the nice floral German brightness, if that makes sense. Round the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, and then behind the front curve of the tongue you've got that little oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you'd expect. There's a little teeny bit of like a kind of candied strawberry or something like that. There's a little just touch of red fruity ester. I mean, this beer is not overly fruity at all. The further you go into the aftertaste, it just comes across as a very light sort of candied strawberry flavour on the tip of your tongue. Maybe a little bit, very slight blackcurranty kind of flavour or something like that. But those are very, very minimal. Of course, the focus is on the bread, it's on the smoke, the kind of smokiness, the nice meaty charred sort of smokiness that this beer has, and of course a little bit of the hoppiness in there as well. But this is a really, really nice example of a Rauchbier. It takes a slightly different approach. As I say, the way that the meat comes across as being a little bit more charred in this one is quite unique, and I really like that about this beer. So thumbs up to Chios Beer for this one. It's a nicely executed beer, this one. They've got a porter as well, which I think would be interesting to try, and on the basis of this beer I would be very curious to try that and see how it turns out. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say that this beer is actually fairly light bodied. Well, maybe more. It's at the top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid-bodied. Carbonation, it does have a little bit of crispness to it, this one. Whether that's due to the fact that it's maybe been agitated when it's been travelling, I'm not quite sure. And obviously I think probably it's a bit of the bottle conditioning as well. It probably is bottle conditioned, this beer, and that's maybe why it's behaved like that. But yeah, you do get a nice little bit of a nice little bit of carbonation at this one. It does have an element of crispness to it. The mouthfeel overall, it's got a good balance between smoothness and wetness and crispness. It is good like that actually. It's suitable. It's a Rauchbier that's suitable for a very kind of hot day, if you like. The malt base in this one has a nice bit of smoothness to it. It dries out a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste, right enough. And you've also got a little touch of sweetness there in the middle of your palate too. You have some nice hoppy bitterness. I would say maybe like 25 IBUs, something like that. There's a little bit of bitterness from the charred elements in the malt base as well, but it's not going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs, this beer, by no stretch of the imagination. And there's just a little teeny bit of a fruity note that comes out into the aftertaste as well. But like I say, overall, this is a really nice example of the Rauchbier style. Very crisp and drinkable, which is a little bit more like the Spezial, I would say, from Bamberg rather than the Schlenkerla, but it's somewhere in the middle of the flavours. The Spezial is always a little bit lighter in its flavour, I think, and more sessionable, whereas the Schlenkerla really blasts you with the big malty flavours. And I think this one, it leans a little bit more towards Schlenkerla in terms of its flavour, but it has you know, it has the sort of special drinkability to it actually. So yeah, really cool to find this beer in Greece. I wouldn't have thought that actually, but then again, there's a lot of Greeks are in Germany and have restaurants and things like that over there, and do other things obviously too. But yeah, it's cool to come across this beer, and it's cool to review one of my favourite styles from yet another country actually. I always enjoy reviewing like Scotch ales and Doppelbocks and quads and things like that, and Rauchbiers from different countries across the world. Those are probably my favourite styles of beer. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Chios Beer Barbecue, coming in at 5.5% from Chios Beer on Chios Island. In the Aegean Sea, one of the Greek islands, the 5th largest one from what I understand. But yeah, thank you for watching my beer reviews of Fraristo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Chios Beer as well. They do have another couple there, and hopefully I can review those for you at some point in the future. But I thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my social media and have a go at some of these Chios beers if you get the chance. If you like a Rauchbier, then this is definitely a very solid and slightly quirky example of the style. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, Yamas.